Karen's hands trembled with barely contained fury as she stomped towards the cheerfully jingling ice cream truck parked on the corner. Her two children, Jack and Lily, bounced excitedly beside her, tugging at her sleeves and pleading for a frozen treat. "Mom, please, can we get the big sundaes with the chocolate syrup and sprinkles?" Lily begged, her eyes wide with longing. "Yeah, and the giant ice cream sandwiches too," Jack chimed in, already licking his lips in anticipation. Karen gritted her teeth, trying to ignore the way her wallet felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. "Absolutely not," she snapped. "You two have already had way too many snacks today. We're going straight home." But the children's pleas only grew louder and more insistent. "Please, Mommy, just this once." They whined in unison, unleashing their most pitiful pouts. Karen's face flushed with irritation as passers-by began to stare. Her grip tightened on her purse, knuckles turning white. "I said no," she shouted, drawing more unwanted attention. "We don't have the money for all that junk. Now get in the car before I lose my temper." The ice cream vendor, a kindly older man with a warm smile, stepped forward, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. Now, let's not get upset. How about I give the kids a couple of small cones on the house? That way everyone can enjoy a little treat without breaking the bank." But Karen wasn't having it. Her eyes narrowed, and she jabbed an accusatory finger at the vendor. "Oh, I see how it is. You're just trying to get my kids hooked so they'll pester me for more of your overpriced garbage." She spat. "Well, I'm not falling for your tricks, mister. Come on, you two. We're leaving." Ignoring the children's crestfallen expressions, Karen grabbed their hands and stormed away, dragging them towards the car. Jack and Lily exchanged bewildered glances, wondering what had just happened. As the ice cream truck's familiar melody faded into the distance, the vendor shook his head sadly. "Some people just can't appreciate a good deal," he murmured, turning to serve the next customer. Karen fumed silently during the drive home, her knuckles white-knuckling the steering wheel. How dare that vendor try to manipulate her children? Didn't he realize that she was the one in charge here, not him? She was the parent, the one who knew best, and she wouldn't be bullied into spending money she didn't have, no matter how much her kids begged. Once they reached the house, Karen herded the kids inside and slammed the door behind them. "All right, that's it. No more snacks for the rest of the day," she declared. "You two are in big trouble for your little display out there." Jack and Lily stared at their mother, eyes wide with hurt and confusion. "But Mommy, we just wanted a little ice cream," Lily whispered, her lower lip trembling. "Well, you shouldn't have asked for so much," Karen snapped. "Now go to your rooms and think about how you've behaved. I don't want to hear another word out of either of you until dinner time." As the children scurried away, Karen collapsed onto the couch, letting out a long, frustrated sigh. Why did her kids have to be so demanding all the time? Couldn't they understand that she was only trying to keep their family on a budget? She ran a hand through her hair, telling herself that she had done the right thing, no matter how much it had hurt to see the looks on their faces. Little did Karen know, however, that her encounter with the ice cream vendor was only the beginning of a much larger conflict that would soon spiral out of control. The next morning, Karen awoke to a series of angry notifications lighting up her phone. She frowned, swiping open the screen to find a stream of furious comments and messages filling her social media accounts. "What is the meaning of this?" she muttered, scrolling through the barrage of posts. It quickly became clear that someone had recorded her altercation with the ice cream vendor and shared it online, painting her in a deeply unflattering light. "Look at this entitled Karen freaking out over a few scoops of ice cream," one comment read. "What a horrible parent. Bet she doesn't even know what it's like to struggle to make ends meet," another user chimed in. "People like her make my blood boil." Karen felt her face flush with embarrassment and indignation. How dare these strangers judge her and her parenting skills? They had no idea what her family was going through or the difficult decisions she had to make. With a frustrated groan, she began typing out a response, determined to set the record straight. "All of you need to mind your own business," she fired back. "You have no idea what happened or why I reacted the way I did. My kids were asking for way more than we could afford, and I had to put my foot down. But of course, some busybody had to go and twist the story to make me look like the bad guy." However, Karen's attempt at damage control only seemed to fan the flames of outrage. The comments section erupted into an all-out war, with people from all sides hurling insults and accusations. "Oh please. Like you've never had to tell your kids no before," one user scoffed. "You're just too much of a cheapskate to let them enjoy a little treat." Typical Karen behavior. "Think the rules don't apply to her and her precious little angels," another person chimed in. Karen gripped her phone tightly, her knuckles turning white. How dare these people make assumptions about her and her family? Didn't they understand that she was simply trying to be a responsible parent? Just as she was about to type out another scathing response, a small voice interrupted her thoughts. "Mommy, are you okay?" Karen looked up to see Lily standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with concern. Suddenly, the angry comments and accusations seemed to fade into the background. All that mattered was her little girl, and the guilt that began to creep into Karen's heart. "Oh, sweetie, I'm fine," she said, quickly locking her phone and setting it aside. "Mommy's just dealing with some grown-up stuff, that's all." Lily shuffled closer, her brow furrowed. "Is it because of what happened with the ice cream man yesterday?" she asked hesitantly. "I'm sorry we made you so mad. We didn't mean to." Karen felt her heart clench at the genuine remorse in her daughter's voice. Reaching out, she pulled Lily into a tight hug, blinking back tears. "No, baby, it's not your fault," she murmured. "Mommy was the one who overreacted. I shouldn't have yelled at you and the nice man like that. I'm sorry." As mother and daughter held each other, Karen couldn't help but wonder how her impulsive actions had spiraled so far out of control. She had never anticipated that a simple trip to the ice cream truck would end up causing such a public backlash. But now, with her reputation tarnished and her family caught in the crossfire, Karen knew she had to find a way to make things right. In the days that followed, Karen's life had been turned upside down. The viral video of her confrontation with the ice cream vendor had taken on a life of its own, with thousands of people weighing in on her perceived entitled behavior. The constant barrage of criticism and judgment was relentless, and Karen found herself constantly on the defensive. She had tried to respond to the accusations, hoping to provide context and explain her side of the story, but her efforts only seemed to make things worse. "Look at this woman trying to save face. Typical Karen move," one person commented, their words dripping with sarcasm. "Sorry, but no amount of excuses can justify the way she treated that poor vendor." "She's just making it worse," another person chimed in. Feeling increasingly overwhelmed and isolated, Karen had even considered deleting all of her social media accounts. But deep down, she knew that wouldn't make the problem go away. The video was out there, and the damage to her reputation was already done. With a heavy sigh, Karen sat down at her kitchen table, her head in her hands. She had to find a way to turn this situation around, but she was at a loss as to how to do it. As she mulled over her options, a glimmer of an idea began to take shape. Straightening up, Karen grabbed her phone and started scrolling through her contacts. She paused when she came across the number for the ice cream vendor, the man at the center of the whole debacle. Taking a deep breath, she tapped the call button and waited anxiously as the line rang. "Hello." A familiar voice answered, sounding slightly wary. "Hi, this is Karen. From the other day," she began, her voice trembling slightly. I wanted to apologize for my behavior. I was completely out of line, and I'm so sorry for the way I treated you and your business." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and Karen held her breath, waiting for the vendor's response. "Well, I have to say, I'm a bit surprised to hear from you," he finally said, his tone softening. "But I appreciate the apology. No hard feelings, my dear. I know dealing with young children can be a real challenge sometimes." Karen felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you. That's so kind of you to say. I really am sorry for making such a scene. I was just overwhelmed, I guess, and I took it out on you." "Ah, I understand," the vendor replied. "These things happen. The important thing is that you recognized your mistake and are trying to make amends. That speaks volumes about your character." Karen felt a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Well, I'm hoping that by reaching out to you, I can maybe start to make things right. Is there any way I could come by the truck and, I don't know, help out or something? I'd really like to make it up to you and your business." "Why, that's a wonderful idea," the vendor exclaimed. "I'd be more than happy to have you lend a hand. It gets quite busy around here, and an extra set of hands would be a real blessing." "Great, thank you so much," Karen said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "When would be a good time for me to come by?" As the two finalized the details of Karen's visit, she couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, she could use this opportunity to not only make amends with the vendor, but also to start repairing her tarnished reputation. It wouldn't be easy, but Karen was determined to show the world that she was more than just another entitled Karen. She was a mother, a human being, and someone who was willing to take responsibility for her actions. The next day, Karen arrived at the cheerful ice cream truck, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and determination. As she approached the vendor, who greeted her with a warm smile, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. "Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity," Karen said, shaking the man's hand. "I really appreciate your willingness to let me come out and help." "Think nothing of it, my dear," the vendor replied. "I'm just glad we could clear the air and move forward. Now, let's get you set up." Over the next few hours, Karen found herself fully immersed in the hustle and bustle of the ice cream truck's daily operations. From scooping out heaping portions of colorful frozen treats to expertly drizzling chocolate syrup and sprinkling vibrant sprinkles, she threw herself into the work with a newfound enthusiasm. As she interacted with the customers, many of whom were families with young children, Karen couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her own behavior and theirs. Instead of reacting with frustration and impatience, the vendors greeted each child with genuine warmth and kindness, patiently answering their questions and fulfilling their requests. It was a humbling experience for Karen, and she felt a pang of shame as she recalled her own outburst just a few days prior. How could she have been so quick to judge and dismiss her own children's desires? Weren't they just as deserving a little bit of joy and indulgence as these other kids? As the afternoon wore on, Karen found herself struck by the simple joy. When Karen arrived home, she found Jack and Lily playing quietly in the living room, their eyes lighting up as she walked through the door. "Mommy, you're back," Lily exclaimed, jumping up from the floor and running to embrace her. "Did you have fun at the ice cream truck?" Karen felt a pang of guilt as she looked into her daughter's hopeful face. Gathering Lily in her arms, she let out a heavy sigh. "Actually, sweetie, I went there to apologize to the nice man for the way I acted the other day," she admitted. "I was wrong to yell at him and at you too, and I feel terrible about it." Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. "But why did you need to apologize, Mommy? We were the ones who were bad and asked for too much." Karen shook her head, smoothing Lily's hair with a gentle hand. "No, honey, you weren't bad at all. I was the one who overreacted and took my frustrations out on all of you. That wasn't fair of me." At that moment, Jack joined them, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Does that mean we can still get ice cream sometimes?" he asked, hopefully. Karen felt a pang of regret as she remembered her harsh words and the way she had crushed her children's excitement. Giving them both a warm smile, she said, You know, I think that's a wonderful idea. In fact, how about we all go get some ice cream together right now? The kids' faces lit up with pure joy, and they immediately began bouncing and cheering. Karen couldn't help but chuckle at their enthusiasm, her heart swelling with affection. As the three of them piled into the car and headed back towards the familiar ice cream truck, Karen felt a sense of nervous anticipation. She knew she still had some making up to do, both with the vendor and with her own family. When they arrived, the vendor greeted them with a friendly wave, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "Well, if it isn't my new assistant, and I see you've brought the whole crew this time." Karen took a deep breath, then stepped forward, her children by her side. "Yes, and I wanted to introduce you to my kids, Jack and Lily. They have something they'd like to say to you." Lily and Jack exchanged a quick glance, then Lily spoke up, her voice small but sincere. "We're really sorry for asking for so much the other day. We didn't mean to make you and Mommy upset." The vendor's expression softened, and he crouched down to their eye level. "Well, now, there's no need to apologize, little ones. Your mama was just trying to be responsible, that's all. And I'm just glad we could all come to an understanding." He then turned to Karen, a knowing smile on his face. "And I must say, your help the other day was greatly appreciated. You've got a real knack for this business." Karen felt a blush creep up her cheeks, and she ducked her head sheepishly. "Thank you. I really enjoyed working with you. And I wanted to say again how sorry I am for my behavior. It was completely uncalled for, and I hope you can forgive me." The vendor reached out and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "Of course, my dear. Water under the bridge, as they say. Now, how about we get these little ones their long-awaited treats?" As the vendor turned to scoop out heaping portions of ice cream, Karen felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had taken the first step towards making amends, and the sense of relief and gratitude she felt was palpable. Glancing down at Jack and Lily, she saw the pure joy on their faces as they eagerly accepted their cones. In that moment, Karen knew that she had learned a valuable lesson, one that would not only help her to be a better parent, but a better person as well. Over the next few days, Karen found herself on a mission to make amends and rebuild her tarnished reputation. She knew that the viral video had done significant damage, and she was determined to show the world that she was more than just another entitled Karen. First, she reached out to the ice cream vendor, offering to help out at his truck on a regular basis. The vendor, true to his kind and forgiving nature, welcomed her with open arms, and the two quickly developed a warm rapport. As Karen worked alongside him, interacting with customers and serving up delicious frozen treats, she found herself gaining a newfound appreciation for the simple joys of the job. The smiles on the children's faces, the laughter and excitement, all served as a powerful reminder of what really mattered in life. Emboldened by this experience, Karen then turned her attention to social media, where the video and the subsequent backlash had taken on a life of their own. Rather than reacting defensively, as she had done before, she decided to take a more proactive approach. Gathering her thoughts, Karen composed a heartfelt post, detailing her encounter with the ice cream vendor and the valuable lessons she had learned. She acknowledged her mistakes, apologized for her behavior, and expressed her deep gratitude to the vendor for his kindness and understanding. To her surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Commenters praised her for her honesty and vulnerability, and many expressed admiration for her willingness to admit her faults and make amends. "Wow, it takes a lot of courage to own up to your mistakes like that," one person wrote. "Kudos to you for being willing to learn and grow from this experience. I'm so glad to see you turning this around in a positive way," another commented. "We could all use a little more empathy and understanding in this world." As the tide of public opinion began to shift in her favor, Karen felt a sense of cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, she could use this opportunity to not only repair her own reputation, but to inspire others to approach life's challenges with more compassion and understanding. With renewed determination, She continued to share updates on her volunteer work at the ice cream truck, inviting her followers to join her in supporting the local business. The response was heartwarming, with hundreds of people flocking to the truck to show their support and enjoy a sweet treat. For Karen, the experience was deeply humbling and transformative. She had learned that true growth and change could only come through vulnerability, self-reflection, and a willingness to admit one's mistakes. And as she watched her children's faces light up with joy as they savored their ice cream cones, she knew that she had finally found the right balance between being a responsible parent and allowing her kids to indulge in the simple pleasures of childhood. As the weeks passed, Karen's newfound commitment to community service and personal growth continued to pay dividends. Not only had she successfully repaired her relationship with the ice cream vendor, but her active involvement in supporting his business had also earned her the admiration and respect of those in her local community. Emboldened by this positive momentum, Karen decided to take her efforts a step further. She began organizing neighborhood cleanup events, rallying volunteers to pick up litter, maintain public spaces, and generally make their corner of the world a little bit brighter. The response was overwhelming, with Karen's social media posts about these initiatives garnering hundreds of likes and shares. People were inspired by her willingness to roll up her sleeves and get her hands dirty, and many expressed gratitude for her leadership and passion. "It's so amazing to see someone like Karen really making a difference in our community," one commenter wrote. "She's setting a great example for all of us." But just when it seemed like Karen had finally turned the tide and put the ice cream truck incident behind her, fate decided to throw her a curveball. One day, as Karen was busily coordinating a group of volunteers at a local park, her phone began to buzz incessantly. Glancing down, she was shocked to see a series of frantic messages from her children's school. Panic gripping her heart, Karen quickly excused herself and rushed to the school, her mind racing with a million possibilities. Had something happened to Jack or Lily? Were they hurt or in trouble? When she arrived, the principal greeted her with a somber expression. "Mrs. Wilkins, I'm afraid we've had an incident involving your son, Jack," he said, his voice grave. Karen felt the blood drain from her face as the principal explained that Jack had been involved in a physical altercation with another student, resulting in both boys receiving suspensions. "I don't understand," Karen stammered, her hands trembling. "Jack has never been in trouble before. What happened?" The principal sighed heavily. According to the other student, Jack became upset after he was teased for his family's ice cream truck drama on social media. He retaliated by shoving the other boy to the ground. Karen felt her stomach drop as the realization hit her. All of her hard work to redeem her image and make amends had been for naught. The trauma and embarrassment she had endured were now being visited upon her innocent child, and she had no one to blame but herself. "Oh God," she whispered, sinking into a nearby chair, her head in her hands. "I never meant for any of this to happen to my kids. They don't deserve to suffer because of my mistakes." As the principal offered his condolences and outlined the disciplinary actions that would be taken, Karen felt a wave of shame and helplessness wash over her. She had been so focused on rebuilding her own reputation that she had failed to consider the lasting impact her actions could have on her family. Now, with her son facing the consequences of her past behavior, Karen knew that she had no choice but to confront the harsh reality of her situation. The karma she had sown was now bearing bitter fruit, and she had to find a way to make things right, for her children's sake, if not her own. As Karen sat in the principal's office, her heart heavy with guilt and regret, she knew that she had to take immediate action to protect her children from the fallout of her own actions. First and foremost, she had to ensure that Jack was coping with the suspension and the relentless teasing from his peers. Wrapping her arms around her son, she held him close, offering words of comfort and reassurance. "Oh, Jack, I'm so sorry you're going through this," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "This is all my fault, and I promise I'm going to make it right." Jack looked up at her, his eyes brimming with tears. "But Mommy, I don't understand. Why are the other kids being so mean? It's not like I did anything wrong." Karen felt a fresh wave of shame wash over her. "I know, sweetheart, and that's the problem. You're being punished for something that was my mistake. I should have handled the situation with the ice cream vendor better, and now you and your sister are paying the price." Pulling back, she cupped Jack's face in her hands, her expression earnest. "But I promise you, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make sure those other kids leave you alone, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure something like this never happens again." With a renewed sense of purpose, Karen turned her attention to the school administration, demanding that they take concrete steps to address the bullying and support her son. She insisted on a meeting with the other parents, determined to nip this problem in the bud before it spiraled out of control. In the days that followed, Karen poured her heart and soul into making amends. She reached out to the parents of the other child involved in the altercation, offering a sincere apology and proposing a mediation session to find a constructive solution. To her surprise, many of the parents were receptive to her overtures, acknowledging that the situation had become far more complicated than they had initially realized. Together, they worked to develop a plan that would not only address the bullying, but also foster a greater sense of community and understanding. As for Karen's own family, she made a concerted effort to create a more open and honest dialogue with her children. She listened to their fears and concerns, validated their feelings, and reassured them that they were not to blame for her past mistakes. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The relentless online harassment slowly subsided as Karen's proactive efforts to make amends gained traction. And within the walls of her own home, she saw a newfound sense of trust and connection blossoming between herself and her children. It wasn't an easy journey, but Karen knew that it was a necessary one. She had learned a hard lesson about the consequences of her own entitled behavior, and she was determined to use that experience to become a better parent, a better neighbor, and a better member of her community. As she tucked Jack and Lily into bed one evening, Karen couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she was committed to making the most of this opportunity to grow and change. "I love you both so much," she whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to each of their foreheads. "And I promise, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure you never have to suffer because of my mistakes again." With that, Karen turned off the light and headed to her own room, her heart filled with a mix of determination and cautious optimism. The journey ahead might be long and arduous, but she was ready to face it head-on, determined to become the kind of person and parent that her family deserved.